Good afternoon, everyone. Today's conversation is about the transformative potential of blockchain, Bitcoin, and digital assets on the African diaspora. This afternoon, we have professionals from the private sector, from the public sector, from academia, and beyond. Since we have such a power-packed panel here, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give you a little bit about their background, but most importantly, talk to you about some of the work that they're doing in the African diaspora. And I think we'll start with you, George.
Hi, thanks for having me here. So my name is George. So I work with Adava. So we are a fund specifically investing in crypto and fintech within the Africa continent. We also do globally, but I'm specifically focused in that region. And we also have an accelerator within the fund as well to kind of progress people through all aspects of scaling a startup from kind of seed stage and beyond. And we have a demo day coming up next week, so if anyone's keen to get involved.
Great, thank you, George. Linda?
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Pointing. As you know, I am the founder of Amazingly Africa, and our brand has two missions. The first one is to help Black women land their dream job in STEM with our initiative. It's called Afro Girls Tech. And the second one is to make sure that Africans are proud to be, whether they're Africans or not, but if you have any Afro-descendant background, proud to be that with our brand. It's called Amazingly African. And so we have hoodies and sweatshirts where it's basically to help people take back the narrative and, be proud of where they come from.
Excellent, thank you. Bayo?
Hi, thank you everyone, and thank you for giving us this stage. My name is Bayo Kusanya. I'm the founder and CEO of NPC Labs. We're working on securing and scaling intellectual property for digital creators in and out of the blockchain space. Our first, iteration of the product is helping NFT creators develop consumer products based off of their IP and link it to their NFTs to build closer relationships with their audience and community members and then help them monetize better. Before this, I was a venture capitalist for 7 years. I've been investing in crypto since 2017. I'm also an angel investor and an LP in some African funds and companies, including Microtraction. And I'm also a member of African DAOs and organizations like Afropolitan, which is a digital nation for the African diaspora.
Awesome. I am Clayton Wilkes. I work for Block, which is the parent company for Cash App, Square, Tidal, TBD, some other ones. I'm not going to go through all of them. But so my specific role is financial inclusion. So I partner with organizations and nonprofits to give financial resources to underserved communities and minorities. And then our goal is to increase the overall education, especially in the space of blockchain, because it's essentially like a new industrial revolution. So we want to open up eyes to that aspect of it and how many different roles there are within the space.
Excellent. I didn't mention my name. My name is Charlene Federefo. My company is called Mango Digital Strategies. We help banks onboard into crypto. And I also do quite a bit of financial inclusion work. And also I am the host of the Bitcoin in Africa show. We are focused on telling the stories of the amazing Bitcoin revolution that's happening in Africa. But I want to talk about a point that Clayton made earlier about financial inclusion. And this question is for all of my panelists. Can you talk about how your work, whether you're in the NFT space, Bitcoin space, or just general digital assets, how is your work enabling financial inclusions in the spaces where you're working? This is for anyone.
I'll jump on it first. So yeah, with say specifically Cash App, we make it super easy for a person to buy Bitcoin. You can buy $1 of it right now. That's kind of like an education piece too, because people think that it's something that's unattainable. You know, I don't want to buy Bitcoin when it's at $30,000, right? But if you can buy $1 and kind of see how it moves, it's kind of a learning lesson, and it's at a small platform. And then you can also share it, send it to other people, and kind of get their mind thinking on that. And then taking that same aspect and then putting it in different areas of education, like going out and being able to talk freely without trying to push people to our business, but just talk freely about what it is and what you can do with it as an investment.
Yeah, exactly. The simple act of just making it easy and accessible. Indeed. Anyone else want to comment on financial inclusion and their work? Bio?
Yeah, I can go next. Having been a venture capitalist for 7 years, a lot of startup founders from the African diaspora reaches out to me, and I try to support them with information first and foremost. You know, a lot of people want to raise money from VCs, but it's not always the best opportunity available to you or it makes the most sense. So I try and educate them on what the expectations are and how to prepare themselves for that. I also open up my network to them and try and get them introductions to partners at different funds and different firms. I'm a scout for a few funds. I've written and created content as well. I consider myself a content creator. So I try and, I've written an ebook and I've written, you know, I've released a 15-page, overview on the blockchain and crypto ecosystem for people who are just beginners to get into it and understand it from, you know, baby steps. And, you know, today as a co-founder and CEO of MPC Labs, we're creating opportunities for different creators within the African diaspora to protect their intellectual property, but realize, okay, there's a lot more things you can do with this. Once you have it in a form that people can experience it, how do we help you grow that and monetize that intelligently?
So, Bio, you bring up a really good point, because when we think about financial inclusion, we're usually kind of talking about people that are maybe just beginning to grow their wealth, but you're talking about, hey, if you're a founder, how do you make sure founders have access to the capital that they need to build their businesses? And so that conversation is not always what we think about for financial inclusion. So thank you for bringing that up. Linda?
So for financial inclusion, I would say more financial literacy. At Amazingly Africa, 2 years ago, we started a podcast, Umoja Sessions. And our goal was to really help people know more about entrepreneurship in various different aspects. So we interviewed CEOs that would come in and talk about their startup or talk about how they grew their business. And right now with Afro Girls Tech, we run workshops, and some of them talk about personal finance. We don't go deep into Bitcoin because we want to make sure that people have the foundations. And I think somebody was talking about that previously. You can't know about fintech if you don't know personal finance. You have to know the basics before you can get to the next level. So that's what we take care of.
Thank you, Linda. George?
Yeah, I mean, as a venture capitalist, I don't directly contribute to it, but the companies that we invest in do. And I think that it's a really fascinating topic, particularly in Africa, because it's multifaceted.
Sure.
So there's a financial inclusion from the consumer side, and you see a lot of stats saying this amount of Africans don't have any banks. But there's so much more to the problem around access to credit markets and credit generally. That's like a really big, important part of growing businesses, scaling them. So financial literacy is a major part of it. There's also access to credit. There's also savings. You know, one of the things I see around why people move into Bitcoin or stablecoins through remittances is because you don't necessarily want to hold your money in Naira because you want to hedge against it. You could lose all value tomorrow because the government acts on asymmetric information or wants to create volatility to do something. And so there's this pedestrian move towards these new technologies like crypto, which is quite interesting. But yeah, financial inclusion is a really fascinating topic, but I think it's a major opportunity for so many builders in Africa, in each currency region, and in each in other sectors as well. So there's loads of opportunities to build within that kind of area of financial inclusion.
Thank you. Good. So let's transition a little bit, and we've touched on entrepreneurs a little bit, but I'd like to lean into innovation. So one of the wonderful things about Africa is that there are some very unique and interesting needs, right? And we always know that necessity is the mother of innovation. So I'd love to hear from your work, where are you seeing pockets of innovation that are unique to Africa or unique to the African diaspora? And I'd love to hear the work that your organizations are doing, and this is for anyone.
I would say, going back to the podcast, and I think that was my most interesting episode for me at least, it was a CEO, and he was focused on agriculture, but including tech in agriculture. So what he did was he worked with engineers, and they used satellite technology in order to help farmers and people grow from small-scale farming to large-scale farming. So I just thought, we have so much arable land, and agriculture is something, food security is something that we all need to think about and talk about, as well as environmental security. And just the ability to take something so specific as satellite technology and use it on something like agriculture, I think that that's amazing, and there are so many other people who are doing great things like that on the continent. So I think seeing more founders like that, I do not personally work in high tech because I do database engineering, so it's more behind the computer, but I think being able to use physical technologies to help people do their everyday work and make money off of it, those are great opportunities in the diaspora that we should all look at and look into.
Great, thank you. Bio or Clayton?
Yeah, for me, I spend a lot of time investing in digital assets and software, and I really see the value in tokenizing real-world assets. So that's part of where I've been spending a lot of time focused on how do we turn consumer goods that exist around us into, assets that we can bring onto the blockchain as well and interact with. There's, a lot of digital assets out there, but a lot of them don't have utility. That's a huge complaint within the space that I work in. So there is a platform around us for connecting with different consumers and people that maybe aren't going to be able to download a wallet and connect, right? How do we reach those last mile of people, which is really most of the world? And I think for the creators that I work with in the NFT space, in the online community, they have an interest in doing that as well, because it allows them to spread their IP to a lot more consumers and a lot more, and impact the world. So I want to make that as easy as possible for people. And there's different ways we can do that, whether that's taking NFC chips and putting it into different items around us, tokenizing those items, being able to trade them on a platform. But that's one of many ways that we're exploring. And I think a lot of people can probably go from the physical assets they now into the blockchain space versus having to figure out the red tape and go down that rabbit hole and learn how to connect and download a wallet. I think we can onboard a lot more people that way.
And Bio, for those folks who might not be familiar with this idea of tokenizing assets, can you give us an example, like a real world example of what you're seeing?
Right. I remember reading online recently, someone took limited edition collectibles of Supreme t-shirts, right? These are old Supreme t-shirts, maybe dropped in the beginning of the brand. They're worth $1 million. There's about 100 of those t-shirts.
Individually?
Yeah, they're all together, okay. Like the asset, right? It's an asset. He tokenized the asset, and he was able to present that to a lender. And that lender gave him $1 million, right, in cash, and he was able to use that token as collateral for that loan, right? That's just one example that I've seen, but you know, people are tokenizing real estate assets. People are tokenizing luxury goods. People are tokenizing different art. Like art's a big, you know, motivator for me, and I see a lot of artists within the African diaspora. I think we're some of the best artists. So I want, you know, our community to be able to access that value creation as well.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Clayton, did you have?
Yeah, mine just kind of piggybacks on that same thought. Is the things that I think about is freedom of use and access, and not being a barrier by your territory or location. So you have a way to protect your wealth, also trade, without having the same type of laws that have been built to like hold us back and separate us. So you have everybody has the same access. It's just being able to be aware about it and understanding what it is. And then you have different ways to diversify how your money grows. So you're not stuck in the same path or the low level increases that may come with traditional ways to invest your money.
Great. Well, we're coming to the close of our time together. I'd like to have each of our panelists give 15 seconds closing thoughts of what you'd like to leave the audience with. And we can start with you, George.
I think that if you're not looking like directly at building within Africa for that ecosystem, like you're losing out. There's so much opportunity. There's so much. There's so many problems that have, you know, specifically with blockchain as well. There's real use cases that actually solve real problems out there in terms of like we always harken back to like storage of wealth and, you know, medium of exchange. I, for one, I'm not too interested in crypto when it applies in the US, but in Africa, it's like this real important asset and technology that will become increasingly important because of how Africa functions. It functions very differently here, and innovation looks different there. There's lots of things that are happening. You don't just look at YC to what they're investing in. There's lots of different things that are happening in Africa that will become increasingly important over the next few years. So, yeah, it's an awesome space to build in.
Okay, thanks. 10 seconds.
I would say technology. It's here to stay as much as, you know, a lot of people are saying that Africans, oh, why are we going towards technology? We should go back towards our roots. Both are important, and I think if we could find a way to even merge both, it would be incredible. So I would say that AI, Internet of Things, all of these technologies are here to stay, and they're only going to multiply. And being here today, you're already taking the first step for that future, for your future, by informing yourself, making sure that you're in the rooms with the people who are making those technologies and making those changes. So that's the only way you'll be able to evolve and, you know, make money and be happy in this world. So I would say technology is here to stay. Learn about it. Digital literacy is important. Thank you. And find me at the table, Amazingly Africa.
I'll be very quick. Just wanted to make the point that there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in the diaspora. We hire from, you know, African engineers. We hire Black engineers. There's a lot of remote workers out there that are very talented that you can leverage. Our head of product, I've been working with him. He's Nigerian. You know, he's based over there, and we work very well together. And that's how we're going to continue to build our team. You know, we're raising also at MPC Labs, so if anyone's an investor in the audience or would like to connect, feel free to chat.
Great.
Very shortly, everyone in here knows a child. Go talk to a child about blockchain.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.